I can't see. It's Chris, the blind guy. We're stuck. Hey, it's Chris with Blind TV. We're here at my friend Chuck's compound. Call this the compound. Tearing apart the old YXZ. And there's old Wyatt. Say what's up, Wyatt?
What's up? Oh, I see what you're saying.
And Chuck is over there all serious. So, thus far you have to take the floor pan out. What are you doing, Chuck? Getting the hose off?
No, I'm trying to make sure we get this all back on the same way.
Alright. Let's see. Then we gotta take this back bumper off to get to these two bolts in the back here so we can get the diff out. These axles were easy to come out. Take off A-arm bolt out. Undo the clamps for the brake lines and literally just pulls it right out. Just like that. Slid right out. No efforts, no issues. What do you think about this project, Wyatt?
Can't wait to do mine.
They're all in work mode.
But it could be a lot worse.
Yes, definitely could have been a lot worse. You know, we're oh, Chuck's in focus mode over there. His head is so shiny. Trying to get it. And then there's the tranny.
Both of them.
Transmission life. He looked at me. Yeah, Chuck looks like a phone. I was kind of hoping we'd be able to pull that transmission out and have enough room to the rear driveline just drop straight off, but from what it's seen is.
Well, it can't go forward, so whatever it's got to, you got to get it out now.
Yeah, because with the front shaft, it can. I mean, you can
It can't-
slightly
here.
twist it.
Up there. Should have more now.
Ain't nothing holding it because they're wide except for. Oh, it's out. Oh,
Yeah,
so I don't
it's
know what
out.
you're doing, but
Oh, it's
Yeah,
out?
It's out.
it's out. I don't know if you can get it out of the frame, but it's out of the tranny because it's flopping.
It needs to like come back like a few millimeters, and I can pull it out
Yeah,
of the way.
you gotta
Alright.
get it out of the way, Chris. You ain't gonna, it's not.
Wiggle it a little more if you can.
What's your opinion on this transmission deal?
A lot better than what I was afraid it was going to be. It's fun, but it wasn't terrible.
So we got it out, guys, and it's a lot easier. Like I was underneath it and I pushed it out to Wyatt and came out. Drive lines came out with it.
A lot easier with a friend.
Lot easier with a friend, yeah. Well, I mean, overall, for what you were here from the
That
time.
part wasn't bad. I wouldn't suggest putting the bumper on if you want to make it any easier.
Now they're gonna give me crap about that. See, what happened is I put a T-bumper on the back because I like it. It's a good brand. But when you go to take the rear diff bolts out, not so good. So overall, guys, it's I mean, this is the part for this right now. Lots of just take out.
Alright, your turn now.
So this is one of many. We get the gear reduction and get everything out right there. A lot of people don't realize when you go to take this apart, there's a plug at the very bottom. Make sure you guys take care of it. And, you know, how it works. All kinds of good stuff. Of what's going on with the YXZ. We ain't got the transmission right here. Got all the new gearing in it. The clutching for 2,000 miles wasn't bad at all. Since I had it apart, might as well, you know, have that fixed. So, here's what it looks like so far as the transmission out. Now I got underneath it, and it's a lot easier with two people. I mean, you can do this one person, but I got underneath it, lifted it up, and Wyatt was on the other side, and we just worked it out that way. Now the driveline, the front driveline, came out with transmission. A lot of suction on the front driveline. In our case, the transmission driveline, the front driveline that goes to the front diff, came out with it. No big problem. Came out easy. Next debate is we're debating whether we're going to take the flywheel off. I don't think we're going to have to take the flywheel off. I think we can get it in to do the transmission. That's what we did, take it out. As you can see, we took off this tunnel cover and this bottom seat because there are two bolts, or a bolt that's hidden right here, that you have to take this pan, or this covers. When you take the seat out, there's that piece of plastic molding, or it goes right here, that you will have to take off to get to that bolt right there. These bolts are torqued on pretty tight. I had to break them loose with some pretty good force, but all in all, it took us, and this combined with the time that I did from taking the doors off and stuff and the plastic skid plate, it's about a 2.5 hour job. When I brought it here, it took us an hour and a half to get the transmission completely out. And you can see it right here. Biggest problem that we had as well is that I have the Super ATV bumper. You got to unbolt it there because you got two bolts here that take the rear diff and slide it back this way. Not a big issue. It just, the design on these is these Allen bolts on this side right here. The tail light intrudes from it, so it kind of makes it a pain in the butt. Again, not terrible, just something you got to work with. If you got an aftermarket bumper on and it happens to be one of these. The axles came out stupid easy. Easier than my Razor. They just popped right out. Now you guys do remember, when you guys move this rear diff, you need to drain your fluid. Save a big mess. I've seen videos where people are keeping the axles in and they just move the rear diff back, but that's not the case. You have to take your axles out. The diff's got to move like 3 different directions to get it propped in a certain position so you can get your driveline out from the back of the transmission. You know, that's things we had to learn. Other than that, to recap, we had to take the back pad right here off, which exposes, all your air and all that stuff. So if you guys have anything you need to do with the airbox, well, this would be a good time to service your airbox and whatnot because you have all that off. And then you come down here and you have a bolt that's hid right here. And then you got your transmission mount bolts, which is 3 bolts, 3 long bolts, not hard. Undo it, and it'll cradle down, and you can move the transmission where you need it. Now to slide it in, you have to take the back of the transmission and push that way, and the nose will come this way, and then you turn it up, and then that's how it comes out. The only way that we knew how to do it that was a lot easier, I was on the bottom pushing up, and then he was guiding it through. Other than that, not terrible. Be careful, guys. There are plugs, sensors and plugs on the bottom of the transmission that you guys need to make sure you undo before you unbolt it. I've seen no video where it showed the plugs. All they showed was one clip plug right here and then a grounding wire right there. And make sure there's 2 plugs on it. So just make sure, and then you got your vacuum line and stuff like that. So overall, it's not a hard project, really easy, nothing bad. We're going to do the reinstallation. I'll get some small clips of that showing that we're getting it back in. Then we're going to test ride it and see how it works. It should work great. Again, guys, hope you guys like this kind of information. I know I'm not a conventional YouTuber where it's all scheduled and stuff. This is just me trying to show you guys things that be a lot easier to do than having to pay someone $2,000. I mean, this is labor and beer, guys. Again, thanks. I could not film because I was underneath there helping and whatnot. So sorry that lack of video is not the greatest, but I'll give you guys kind of a play-by-play of what we did on how we got this thing back in. All right, as you can see, the transmission's back in, gas tank, everything. So when you remove the gas tank and all this back covering, you have to put the transmission, when it's coming out and going in, has to go front side going out, and in the back of it, when you're putting it back in, has to go in first. We did the flywheel driveline to get it back in. It will come out without having to disassemble that, but going back in, we did that. The best way to do this is I was underneath it, and my Wyatt went in here, dropped it in there. I was underneath and I held it up and we pulled it in there. You get the driveline in, the front side in first, then you worry about the back second. Now, something I didn't know that I know now, you guys, when you're doing this transmission work, make sure you clock your driveline. Clock them, your drivelines is what I'm trying to get at. Make sure they're all the same, going from front all the way to the back. If you don't, then they'll start shimmying, they'll start vibrating. Apparently that's a big deal people don't really understand or realize. Clock your drive lines. Make sure your U-joints are all in the same position going from front to back. That part going in there, you came out from the passenger side. I was underneath, I lifted it up. You have 3 transmission mount bolts. You got 1 here and 2 on the other side. Gas tank wasn't hard. I had a whole lot of mud in here. I cleaned it out to the best I could. To get the front drive line in, what I did is I laid underneath the link right here, and you can get your hands right here in the front drive line underneath, and you can put both driveline pieces together right underneath here. You don't have to worry about taking the the axles apart. It's a lot easier if you just pull the top A-arm off and then pull your CV axle out and do it that way. The best way that we did on the back right here was you have 3 small brake line bolts that are right here, here, and here. And we took those off. All we did was take this top bolt off right here from the A-arm, lifted it up, and it literally, the axle just came straight out. Not a problem. I had to disassemble my back bumper to get to the rear diff mount to take that out. And then once you slid it back, that drive line literally comes out. Not a problem, nothing big. One thing I gotta do left now is put the e-brake back on to the rotor, mount that up, and then everything else is just plastics and push pins and some bolts for the back part right here. Overall, really not a bad project at all. It took us about 2.5 hours last night to put the transmission back in. Not hard. You have to be careful when you're putting the transmission in. There is a plug in the bottom. You have to make careful when you go to put it in there because you have 2 cross members that go across here. And it cradles that transmission in there. That's where your mounts are. And you definitely don't want to snap off that sensor or that plug. The shifting linkage, everybody said mark it. Let me tell you what, you don't have to mark it. You got to put it on there, and then you'll move your shifter to where you think where you need it, where it's even, where you can push forward into first and then go through the rest of your gears. That's all you have to do. It's not rocket science. It's not something that you have to mark to make sure it's perfect. So don't freak out if you don't mark it. It's not a big issue. It's literally a quick fix. You just look at your shifter and see if it's too far forward or too far backwards, and you move it, put the Carter key in, and you're golden. Nothing hard. Overall, I recommend anybody who wants to do the transmission is just do it. It's not hard. It's more tedious work than having to take the plastics and the doors off than it is getting the transmission out. Easy. I would do it 10 times over on this machine than I did my Razor. My Razor was, you had to move the motor, unbolt it from the motor, take it out, and twice as bad. Here, it's take some plastics off, move the drive lines, unbolt the tranny, bring it out. So that's kind of a video. I wish I could have gotten a lot more of us taking this out, but for anybody that needs to know, you're taking all the plastics off your passenger side. You don't have to take the floor pan out in the front because that's there, it stays there, nor the center console, that can stay there. But everything that's involved the tunnel to here, there's 6 Allen head bolts that hook to your flywheel line right here. This cover, you gotta unbolt it, which isn't hard. And then you just unbolt all that. And then literally this transmission will slide back a little bit. You're gonna turn it, and you have to have someone underneath lifting it up so you can cross that, and it's gonna cradle out like this, and then to you, and then come this way. So overall, not a big deal. Pretty simple. You know, we got probably another an hour's worth of work right here to do this. We adjusted the recluse last night after we took it out. One thing I will say, take your slave cylinder out. All you gotta do is just unbolt the slave cylinder, pull it out from the transmission or the clutch, and you will not have to bleed your clutch all over again. Some people I've seen on the video, they want to disconnect the clutch and disconnect the slave cylinder and take the slave cylinder with it. Don't do it. Take the slave cylinder, unbolt it, move it aside, and you won't have to re-bleed your clutch. Easy. Not a problem. So guys, I hope some of this stuff you guys can take and you can understand what I'm talking about. I wish I could have filmed a lot more us doing this, but the way the world is, you know, I got to get down in there and help too. I can't just watch everybody do this. And definitely it's a 2-person job. 2 people. You can't do this by yourself. If you can, you're going to be struggling. I know people have done it by themselves, but if you got another buddy that can come and help, lift it up, help you get it out, a lot easier. So that's my opinion. Hey guys, this is Chris. I'm here to wrap up the video of us putting in the transmission gear reduction kit. It is off of 2019 GYTR, the Yamaha YXZ gear reduction. It's got the transmission gearing from the 19 models. And so I just wanted to go over a couple of things. On the rear drive line, right here, you have the rear diff, which is right here, and then the drive line that goes underneath here. You have a little damper, what they call a damper bushing, that goes in the back of it. I had to take mine apart just recently, actually today, because this fell out. Guys, buy the Hess upgraded one. Apparently there's a lot of people who have had issues with these, demolishing them or whatnot. But there's 2 ways that you can save this. Grease your boot right here that goes in the drive line. It's the input shaft right here. And then on the transmission side, they have the same thing. It's a rubber boot right here. If you put grease in it and zip tie around it, and you should be fine. Now, I got the upgraded one on here because I don't want to deal with it once it's already out. I did not know that this fell out. Now, in the front of the driveline, there's a spring. In the back of the driveline, there's a bushing here. A lot of you guys don't know how to get your rear diff off. I have a bumper on here. I had to take this bumper off. There is a plate back here that holds this rear diff up. It's got 2 bolts, one right here and one right here. And then there are 3 bolts total. That's one of them, and the other 2 are right here and right here. You take that out, and the rear diff will pull out, slide out. Now, when I moved the rear diff back, I just took the top A-arm bolt off the knuckle and lifted it up, and it literally, you can just pull this, and that axle just pulls straight out. No problems, no issue. Now, guys, I don't know if you guys ever do much when you're doing this. These are open diffs. You are going to lose fluid. Put a catch can underneath it, because once you lose it, you're going to have to fill it back up again. I did not know that that was the case until I took this apart. And now, when we come up here to the front, you're going to have to take this back plate off. You're going to have to take this gas cover shroud, cap shroud off. The gas tank's got to come out. Now, I went in underneath while a buddy of mine was holding it right here, and I lifted it from the underneath and pulled it out, coming from the front side first. This open area has no problems coming out, and then by then you'll get your front drive line. It will pop out, and you have a grounding wire, a clip, a plug, your shifting linkage. You don't have to mark your shifting linkage. You put it on there and then you'll measure it, the distance. Typically you want it in the center where your shifter's got enough room to go forward or backwards. That's the way we did it. And pretty much an overall easy project. Just know when you're doing the drive lines, clock them. When you get them back in, make sure the U-joints are parallel with each other from front to back. It's not hard to do. I didn't find it very hard. The overall project was not hard at all. It was more of a pain in the butt to have to take the rear driveline out again just to put this back in, because I didn't know it fell out until we looked on the ground and it was laying there. So guys, just when you take the driveline out, there is a spring, and then there is this part right here in the back. If you're gonna have it out, you might as well upgrade it. If yours is good, this one's fine. I could have reused this one. It is called a damper, rear damper bushing. That's all it is. It's just rubber, it's flexible. So the spring on the front of it, when your driveline's under a load and it springs forward, that spring keeps pressure on it and it keeps it back right here, and it keeps it from wallering and grinding inside your rear diff. That's the understood what I got from it. It's important to have it. So when you take the driveline out, make sure you got this in your spring. Your spring's gonna pop out as soon as you pull that driveline out from the transmission. So overall, it was a good project. I'm putting the bumper back on right now and gonna start putting the plastics back on. I have drove it with the gear reduction in it. Handles like a champ. Love it. Best thing you could ever do. So again, guys, like, subscribe. I hope this video will give you guys some insight on how to take the transmission out. It's helpful if you got two people. I mean, I've seen people do it with one, but they have taken a lot of plastic. They've had their front end or their whole inside of their cab completely apart and off. I'm doing this with minimal stuff to take off. We dropped the axles out. We got the rear driveline out. The front driveline came with it, and the transmission turned and pulled out. Easy as could be. One thing I will note, take your slave cylinder off so you don't have to re-bleed your clutch. There's 2 bolts, and unbolts it, it'll slide out. You will have to replace that gasket because they have a slave cylinder gasket. So just remember that. But it's a lot easier than having to re-bleed your clutch and all that stuff all over again. So again, guys, like, subscribe. So again, thanks. I can't see. Blind guy out.